Hello everyone, welcome to Wind Down Wednesdays. I'm your host Paula Taylor and this is episode 155. As a quick reminder, if you are enjoying the show, there are multiple ways you can support me in this work. You can book a one-on-one session with me or attend one of my group events or classes. You can like and share the podcast, and you can also donate directly to me to support the show. There's a link in the show notes, or you can visit paulataylorenergy.com, go to the podcast page, and there is a donate link to donate through PayPal. So today we are going to talk about why integration time is so important. And as always, this topic came out of something that's been going on for me, but it's absolutely something I have been seeing reflected in the people around me, the clients I'm working with, the people in my practitioner groups, people I know. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how this came up, and then we're going to talk about what do I mean by integration time and why is it so important. So February was insane. For just about everyone I know, it was extremely busy. It was fairly intense. It was very chaotic feeling. The energy was feeling very chaotic. The full moon that we had right at the end of February was about the most intense I've seen ever that I can remember. I've been paying attention to these moon cycles for the last few years, and I've been sharing this information that this year, 2024, these moon cycles are going to get more and more and more intense. And that's been happening for a while, but it kind of ramped up this year, and this last full moon really proved that. And at least through the middle of the year, then we're going to receive this really large activation sometime in June that is going to have the power of 40 full moons is what my guides gave me, which after this last full moon, I'm a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure how we're going to do with that. I'm not sure how we're going to survive, to be honest. But we will, because there's that old saying, the universe never gives you more than you can handle, or you can put God or spirit or source in for that. So let's talk a little bit about why integration is so important. What do I mean by integration time? And how this is going to serve us moving forward, especially in this year. Anytime you're listening to this, but especially in this year, because this was a very intense, again, full moon. There was a throat and sacral activation that is now kind of starting to resolve. So just quickly, we've gone over this before, but the way the moon cycle functions in terms of energy is similar to the way the moon cycle in a person's body, in a woman's body, and a menstruating person's body functions. So leading up to the full moon, or in the cycle ovulation, your energy tends to get higher and higher and higher. Energy gets more and more and more intense. At that full moon, or in the cycle ovulation, the egg is released. There's a huge kind of activation of energy. And then energy starts to fall as the moon cycle heads back toward the new moon. And in the menstrual cycle, the new moon is typically where the woman sheds her lining and we kind of start all over. So, and there's ancient civilizations, indigenous people they were able to link their cycle to the moon cycle, and it makes a lot of sense. But we all go through this. It doesn't matter if you're a menstruating person or not. These energies absolutely affect us. So again, as we head into the rest of this year, every moon cycle is going to get more and more intense. And then we also have these other activations coming in. So what I want to talk about is kind of what happens after that full moon, after that chaotic time when things are so busy and so chaotic and everybody's a little bit unpredictable. What happens here is that this is really challenging for those of us who work professionally with energy and are very aware of what's going on and set intention about how we function in the world. For everyone else, it feels like this is happening to them. Sometimes to them, not for them. For us, sometimes too. But if you're not aware of what's going on, you might not understand, why does everything feel so intense? Why is everybody acting so unpredictably? Why does everything feel so chaotic? Sometimes it's just things like, why am I dropping things? Why am I getting injured? Why did this accident happen? There's all of these things that can seem very coincidental until we understand that this is corresponding with this moon cycle energy. And again, it's getting more intense this year. So I'm going to give you my little story about kind of where this came from and then tie it back into the moon cycle. So February was extremely intense, and that week of the full moon, I worked about 9 days in a row, which I have for almost a year now. On and off, I've been working without a break, or with one day off, or with half a day off in the week. And I was extremely busy. That's one of the reasons I only did one show in February. It just was a very busy month, and it was building and building and building. And then this week, things have really slowed down. And that brings up some feelings. So let's talk a little bit about that. So first of all, I purposely designed my schedule going forward so that I would have an actual day off, or hopefully 2 days off together. Sometimes I work Sundays, but I'm going to have Sundays and Mondays off. Haven't had 2 days in a row off for over a year. So I was really excited to have Sunday and Monday off this week, and I knew that was happening. But then nobody booked with me on Tuesday, which is normally a day that I have people booked. And so the first thing that happened is that I had a little bit of old patterning come up around scarcity and like, why aren't people booking and what's happening and what am I doing wrong and things like that. And I moved through that fairly quickly and recognized that this was a really beautiful invitation to find some integration time. And we'll talk about what I mean by that. Also, it's no coincidence that we're heading into the new moon this next weekend, which is kind of that low point of the energy. So the energy finally started to settle. This really chaotic, intense energy is finally starting to settle. And at the new moon, we have this opportunity to kind of be in calm and to set intentions for the next cycle as the energy begins to ramp back up. And because these activations are so much more intense as we move forward in this year, it's even more important to take advantage of the different cycles of this moon. So as you're heading into the ovulation period, the full moon, getting things done, that's the time that you can kind of be doing things. But as we head into the new moon, there's this opportunity for integration. So let's talk about, I keep saying that, what do I mean by integration? Because there's a few things that go into this. And it's interesting kind of how this came to me and how I decided to make this the topic. So the first thing about integration, the first aspect that's really important is rest. And there's different types of rest: physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, social rest. I've kind of been doing all of the things. And it's funny because I had these few days and I thought, oh, great, I'll have a day off and then I'll get some things done that I needed to get done for the business, things for the website, things like that. Didn't happen. None of it happened because I have been working without a break for so long that when I had these few days off, I could not do anything. And it wasn't like I was sick or I was tired or I wasn't feeling good. It was like the motivation was not there. And I'd think, oh, I should do this thing. And then I'd go and sit outside instead. And what I realized a day and a half into this kind of 2.5 days or so was that this wasn't absolutely by design. It was absolutely an invitation from the universe for me to take advantage of this. And I started to understand why this was happening. So we've talked about integration before. I did a whole show where I talked about why is integration so draining. So let me talk a little bit personally, give you kind of an example of what led into all of this. So I said I was working a lot. I mean, for a year now, I have been working essentially with very little to no days off, no days in a row unless I went out of town. That was the only way I was getting any kind of like break of more than a day or a half day at a time. Not sustainable, absolutely, physically, mentally, emotionally. So I've been working a lot. But the other thing I've been doing is a lot of personal work on myself. And as somebody who holds space for other people to heal, it's important for me to constantly be working on my own healing because that is how I can evolve to hold safer and more supportive space for other people. So I'm kind of always doing a little bit of that work, and I've developed a pretty good understanding of like when I need to be active in that work and when I need some integration time. But what sort of happened just over the last 2 months or so was that I was really deep into two different things. I was doing this ease training, the equine assisted somatic experiencing, which I've talked about on multiple shows leading up to this. nervous system retraining work, essentially finding ease in the body, recognizing patterns, working on boundaries, which is really difficult and kind of tends to stir things up for me. And then I had also signed up to take a tarot reading class. I wanted to do some work to strengthen my intuitive reading. And there was somebody that I had really admired. I've mentioned her on the show before. Her handle is @FemGenius. You can check her out on Instagram. Her name is Liz Zamorsky. Did not disappoint. I absolutely recommend if you want to jump into learning tarot, connecting with your intuition. It was a fantastic class. It was called Intro to Tarot, but it was like a deep dive. And one of the things we were doing as part of this class is that we were pulling cards every day for ourselves, specifically with a prompt. So she would give us a question, and then we would pull cards around this for ourselves. And then the last week we were pulling cards for each other in partnership. And what I didn't expect in this class was just how deep it was going to get, and just how much was going to come up for me personally around, again, kind of things don't happen coincidentally, they happen synergistically or synchronistically. So I was working around things like boundaries and safety in this ease training, and then in this tarot class, I had a lot of things coming up about building community and feeling safe in community and holding boundaries and getting really drained. I kept pulling this card that just was like this woman's energy going down the drain. And so it was very challenging. There was a lot of limiting beliefs that were coming up for me around worth, around how much I was working, around holding boundaries, around things like that. And when you're doing work like that, you need processing time. So integration is about rest, absolutely. It's also about processing. So all of this information has come through. I watched this TikTok the other day. I can't credit it because I don't remember who it was, but she was talking about late stage capitalism and this idea that we have been programmed into being consumers. We're consuming all the time, consuming. You know, you're buying things, you're watching things, you're getting information all the time. You know, if you're watching TikToks, you're watching this podcast or listening to it, that is consumption. You are consuming information. And we need time to process that information. We need time to integrate that information. It doesn't do me any good to jump from class to class to class to class to class and consume information if I don't give my system time to integrate that information. And how that shows up is in the form of rest, taking some time off, not jumping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, but allowing yourself time to rest, time to reflect, time to process. So all that information that has been coming through, you need to allow that to work its way into your system. You need your brain to be able to work through this, especially if you're confronting some things that are difficult or limiting beliefs. You need space for this. You need space for this processing time. And then in this TikTok, I was watching the other form of, she was calling it forms of rest, but the other form that's really important for us is expression. And it's really interesting because I had that extra sort of day off that I wasn't expecting, and I got my kirtan for pregnancy loss finally ready to submit to the distributor and release. That will probably be released, I'm thinking the middle of April sometime. And it was something I just haven't had time to do. The song was almost completely ready. I needed to mix it to master it, which is a little bit science and a little bit expression. The creative part was essentially done, but I just didn't have time to finish that. And so integration is all of these things. Integration includes all of the above. It includes rest. And what does rest include? Again, sometimes it's physical rest. Sometimes it's social rest. Sometimes it's a break from work. Sometimes, for me, let me tell you what I've been doing this week, and I think that will help illustrate, again, kind of make this a little concrete of what I'm talking about. So the first thing I was really called to do this week, and I think this is really going to serve us this year, is to go outside. During this part of this moon cycle where we're coming down in energy, we need to discharge, first of all, some of that chaotic energy that's still in our field from the full moon activation. And the earth loves to absorb that. And we need support as we rest, as we integrate, as we process, as we prepare to step into the next activation. So I was really called, I found myself in the first 3 days of this week just sitting outside on the ground. And it's really beautiful here right now. So we have a short spring before it gets really hot in Arizona. So I've been sitting outside and just doing nothing. So not consuming, that is part of this rest process. Sitting outside, listening to the birds sing, feeling the sun on my face, feeling the breeze, just being really embodied, present in my body. Because when we are consuming, we are in the mind space, and that's important. I just took those 2 classes, and there was a lot of embodiment work in the ease training. In the tarot class, it was more kind of in the mental space or that intuitive space. But in order to receive that, it's just like, this is the example I've always used. I've probably used it on the show before. I'm going to use it again. So I used to take a lot of yoga classes. I've studied lots of different types of yoga. And my favorite pose was always Shavasana, or what they sometimes call corpse pose. At the end of the class, you're lying there just receiving. And a lot of times people don't like that pose. They're like, I'm done. I want to get on to the next thing. Let's go. Let's move on. I'm finished. I've checked this off my list. And there was something innate in me that kind of recognized that that was actually the most important part of the practice. And I've had numerous teachers say that. Shavasana is the most important part of your practice because it's when you integrate. It's when you absorb. You're not just resting from the physical asana, the poses that you've been holding. There's an aspect of that. But you've just held a bunch of things in your body, a bunch of poses, moved energy in a new way, released some things usually. Your body needs time to integrate that. Your body needs time to process that. Your mind needs time to kind of come into silence or stillness. So integration is really about this kind of Shavasana period that we have the opportunity to take here as these moon cycles, as the energy kind of comes back down. There's an invitation to rest. There's an invitation to receive. There's an invitation to process the information that we did consume, or the messaging that came through intuitively during these big activations. It doesn't do us any good if we don't allow ourselves space to receive that and process that and integrate that. It's a little bit like, again, jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing and never really integrating any of that in a meaningful way. And unfortunately, that is kind of how we're programmed in society, is to just keep doing and doing and doing and going on to the next thing. And okay, I've checked this off my list. What's next? And there's not really this sense of celebration. There's a little bit of a celebration. I just took these 2 really amazing classes, totally different, but synergistically kind of worked together to help reveal some things that I needed to work on in my own belief system, some boundaries that I needed to step into, some courage to start setting. And I need time to allow that to settle in my body. If I am going to be somebody with a very relaxed nervous system who is more often in that rest and digest, parasympathetic, sustainable mode than somebody who is in the sympathetic, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, then I've got to give myself space to make room for change, to process, to rest. And that's really what's been coming up for me this week. Just sitting outside without my phone, without any idea necessarily of what I needed to do next. And that doesn't mean I didn't have a little to-do list kind of running in the back of my head. Like I said, it was like, oh, I need to get this ad done for this magazine, and I need to get this video done for this, and am I going to do a show this week? Those little thoughts are there, but sort of letting that be more background noise, or purposely setting it aside and kind of setting a boundary even around that. I will get back to this. I will get the things done that I need to do. But right now, I am focused on integration. I am focused on rest. I am focused on receiving. I am focused on processing all of this change that's coming through this year. This is a huge year of change, and change is challenging. We tend to be creatures of habit. So when our habits are disrupted, when our schedule is disrupted, that can feel very scary. It can bring up a lot of fear. And so we need to have this integration time so that we can understand, like, it's okay to change, and to do it slowly, and to do it thoughtfully, and to do it intentionally. And this, again, is going to serve us so much as we head further into this year. We are really going to need to know what our needs are, to recognize how we're being influenced by cosmic energies, because this is a year of cosmic energies, of space weather, of activation, whatever word you want to use for it. There is no denying, even people who are not energy savvy are noticing. Again, sometimes it presents itself more as chaos or unpredictability, things going wrong, things seeming off, things like that. In my medical job, things were just completely insane leading up to and the first couple days after that full moon, to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And then as the energy started to settle, things started to settle. So having that understanding that, again, the full moon is there's a leading up to it, and then there's 3, 4, 5 days before the energy starts coming down. So first of all, just knowing, it's like being on the roller coaster, it's ramping up, it's ramping up, it's wrapping up, and then you're going to kind of have this big release, the big activation where you go down the hill. But eventually you're going to settle back down into the end of the ride, right? But then if you stay on it, it starts all over again. It's kind of like we're on a roller coaster over and over and over again with these monthly-ish cycles. And again, understanding that and then taking advantage of what you're being offered. So if things are slowing down for you, rather than jumping into the fearful mindset of like, why are things slowing down and what's happening and maybe I'm doing something wrong, which again, I had some of those thoughts. I just changed my one-on-one pricing. I hadn't made an adjustment for 2 years, and that always feels a little bit vulnerable. That felt a little bit like a boundary that I needed to set to honor my energy and to honor the intensity of the sessions that I'm offering for people. And then it was like right after the change happened, I had a slow week. So there were some thoughts, some scarcity thoughts that came up. There were things like that. And interestingly, next week I'm almost fully booked. So recognizing, yes, fears come up and there's old programming and old thoughts and old belief systems there. But if we trust in this energy, if we trust that the universe is leading us somewhere for our greatest and highest good, we can take advantage of what's being offered. And so right now we're being offered this rest, this integration, this processing time. And there's a lot of different ways to take advantage of that. So let's talk about that just briefly, and then we'll jump into the meditation for today, which is going to be a really nice restful meditation. I have no idea exactly how that's going to present, but I will just let it flow through as I do. So resting your physical body, whether that means going to bed, whether that means lying down for a few minutes, whether that means sitting at your office desk and setting a timer for 3 minutes and just closing your eyes and doing some oxytocin breathing. Sometimes I do a little bit of rest in the bathroom. If I'm in a place where I can't really do that out in the open, I might go lock myself in a bathroom stall and do 2 or 3 minutes of oxytocin breathing or silent light language or silent sound, just to reset my nervous system, to continually communicate to my body that I am safe. I am cared for, I am protected, I will take care of you, I will honor where you're at. So if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling called to rest, finding that rest and believing in yourself enough to know that you'll be supported. This leap that I took of dropping another day at my job, I'm down to 1 day a week at the medical job, it was a vulnerable leap for me to take because there's always that concern, am I going to make enough money? Is this going to be worth it? What if this doesn't work out for me? There's all of these things that kind of come up. And you've got to trust that the universe has your back. That's actually part of this integration process, is trusting that what is being presented for you is being presented for you. Things are not happening to you, they're happening for you. And again, this switch happened for me fairly quickly this time, where I was like, man, I can't remember the last time I had 3 days with I had a few things here and there, but I was not here in my office seeing clients. I actually had a time to spend with my husband. That's another thing. Sometimes integration means family time. Sometimes integration means deepening a relationship. Sometimes integration, again, is processing. If a lot of things have been coming up for you, recognize that no one is meant to work constantly. That is a lie that we have been programmed to believe in order to support capitalism, that we are meant to be productive all the time, that our worth is tied to our production. We need time to rest. We need time to process. Sometimes processing looks like calling a friend. I had a really great discussion with my friend the other day. I'm not sure what to do about this. Feel like I need to set a boundary here. I just need to bounce this off of someone to kind of figure out what it is that I really want, because I'm not sure in this moment. Taking time to make decisions when you're in integration is hard. People expect us to be available all the time. They text you, they want a response instantly. They don't like it when you say, hey, I need to get back to you on this. I can't answer that right away. But that is a boundary that you can set for yourself. That is part of this, of honoring yourself. That's really what integration is. Taking time to honor yourself. So asking, what is it that I need in this moment? Do I need some sort of rest, whether that's physical, emotional, social? Maybe I need to not be out in public for a while. I need a day at home. Or maybe I need to spend a really quality time day with a friend or a family member. You are the one who knows what you need. So this is a practice of allowing yourself to receive your own intuition about what is serving you. And you are the one who knows, what type of rest do I need? What type of processing do I need? Maybe this is a time where I need to go and receive some sessions in order to process some things because I'm not quite sure what's going on. Maybe I need the help of a professional to help me figure out what's happening, whether that's a mental thing, an emotional thing, whether it's energetic, physical, whatever that is. That is a huge part of integration and processing, is having someone hold space while you process. That can be really important, really valuable. And then I'm just going to mention what I saw on that TikTok because I really liked it. This idea of expression. We are creative beings and we can create in all sorts of ways. Some people like to create art, create music, but that doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be something that you're professional at. It just has to be something that feels creative, that brings you joy. Writing, cooking can be extremely creative. Baking, knitting, crocheting, anything that you feel like, first of all, you're not consuming, you're actually creating. I think that's the difference. You're not receiving, you're creating. What are you creating? It's up to you. That is another beautiful aspect of integration. So we're going to do a meditation today that just revolves around, I think, receiving some of those messages. That's what's coming through. So here's our question. You might bring this into your field right now, and then we'll bring it into the meditation. What can I do to bring integration to myself right now? What kind of rest do I need? What kind of processing do I need? What kind of space do I need? What kind of expression do I need? We'll bring that into the meditation. First, we're going to just come into a really nice, relaxed, supported state, bringing the body into that parasympathetic response, into that rest and digest mode. And then we'll just ask for some intuition around what kind of integration serves. And this will be a great meditation to come back to each full moon cycle as we get into that latter part where we're heading into the full moon. Into the new moon, out of the full moon into the new moon. This will be a great meditation that can serve you to check in. What do I need this month for integration? You can come back to this as many times as you'd like. So let's meditate together. So for this meditation, find a really comfortable position. Doesn't matter if you're sitting up or lying down. Just get really cozy, get really comfortable, get really supported. Perhaps put something under your knees if you're lying on your back. If you're sitting up, you might want to be in a position where you can lean your back against something. Just allow yourself to feel really supported here. As we ask for intuitive information, it's always nice to be in a relaxed space, to have that body come out of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, out of that sympathetic mode and into parasympathetic. So in order to vibrate the vagus nerve, tell the body to make that switch. Let's do 3 to 5 or even more deep oxytocin breaths together. This produces oxytocin, vibrates the vagus nerve. It tells the body that it's safe to come into that rest and digest mode. So we're going to breathe in through the nose. We're going to strongly let the belly float out. And then as we breathe out, we're going to use that audible ha sound from high to low, vibrating that vagus nerve. So I'll do one with you, and then I'll encourage you to do at least 3 to 5 more. So letting the breath float in. So as you do a few more of those, I'll just direct you to notice how your body feels as you perform that breath, or if you're feeling connected to that subtle energy. What you might notice is that as you give that beautiful audible ha sound, there's a feeling of settling in the body. There's a feeling of drawing the breath in, and then that energy flowing down the body, out the feet, connecting you to the earth, which is really such a beautiful, supportive source of integration. It's a source of rest. It's a source of renewal. It's a source of processing. Just a beautiful space to be connected to in order to receive this gift of integration, of processing or rest. However, integration is coming through to you in this particular moment. And we will delve into that more. But let's do a little bit of an exercise to come fully present into the body. You can continue that oxytocin breath if it serves. Anytime you feel like you want to release some energy, it's nice to breathe out through the mouth, and you can add that audible ha sound. I'm assisting you with some Reiki here to just bring the energy down fully through the body. When we get into that chaotic activation state, our energy tends to stop moving. It tends to get stuck in the mental space, in the head space. It tends to start vibrating. We can start feeling things like anxiety and overwhelm. So what we're doing today is just really bringing that energy back into the body, celebrating the settling of the cosmic energies by settling the energies in our own body. So you can picture the top of your head, that crown chakra area opening. Imagine a beautiful golden, white, or purple light flowing in through the top of your head, inviting in that source of all we are, that unconditional love energy that we are made of, to come in through the top of the head, letting that energy flow through the head, into the jaw, down into the throat and the neck, just allowing this to flow like a waterfall down the body, into the shoulders, through your upper arms, down to the elbows, through your forearms, and then into the wrists and hands, feeling this flow of this beautiful light. Again, you can visualize a waterfall of light or just water. Any kind of color that calls to you here, white, gold, purple is always a beautiful color to call in, but maybe you're being called to red or orange or blue. Allow this color to flow in. Let it come down into your chest and your upper back, bringing this energy down into the body, through the belly, and the mid-back down to the low belly and the low back. Pausing here at the hips and the pelvis, taking a couple of deep breaths to really encourage this energy to come out of the headspace and down into the torso, down into the pelvis. And then as you're ready, perhaps on your next exhale, allowing that beautiful waterfall of energy, of unconditional love to flow into your thighs, down into the knees, and all the way through the lower legs, through the ankles, through the feet, completely out the feet. Whatever position you're in, feel what's closest to or contacting the earth. If you have your feet on the ground, just take a moment here to pause and really feel the connection between the feet and the earth. You can actually imagine the soles of your feet opening up and connecting to the earth. If you're lying on your back, just imagine the entire back of your body opening and connecting to that earth, feeling really supported and loved here, cradled by the earth, allowing any energy that's not serving you, any of that chaotic activation, that fiery energy that's ready to be released, just letting it flow out now, that waterfall just washing anything out that's not serving. And just take a moment to notice the shift here. Maybe you feel a little more present in your body. Maybe your thoughts have slowed down a bit. Maybe you notice no change, and that's completely fine as well. You can come back and repeat this as many times as you'd like. And this would be a really good meditation to check back in that week leading up to the new moon as we move forward. Checking in here to find out what your body, what your emotional field and your energetic field, what your mental space is calling for in terms of integration. Are you being called to rest, and what type of rest are you being called into? Are you being called for processing time, and how does that look? Does that look like reaching out for help or spending alone time? Does that look like a conversation with a friend or journaling? How are you being called to express yourself in this moment? Again, maybe through conversation, maybe it's through creating something. We're going to go through each of those questions individually. I'm supporting you with some beautiful Reiki. We'll step into a little bit of sound healing. I've got my soothing bowl here to assist in this rest and renewal that comes through this integration time. So just checking in here, you might want to put your hands somewhere on your body, maybe on your heart space. We're going to check in with our intuitive body here to get some answers. Sometimes it's really nice to put your hands on the belly. That's where a lot of our really strong gut intuition comes from. Or you can just rest your hands by your side or in your lap. You don't have to have them somewhere, but it might feel good to have them on a part of your body as you're checking in here. We're just going to ask some open-ended questions here. Allow the information to come in. If nothing comes in, that's completely fine. You can stick with that waterfall imagery and just coming back into your body. You can stick with oxytocin breathing. Whatever feels good to you in this moment is exactly what serves you. So we're going to start by asking, what type of rest am I being called into right now? Am I being called to rest physically, and what might that look like? Am I being called into emotional rest, and how does that present for me? Am I being called for some mental rest? How might I accomplish that? Am I being called into social rest? And what does that mean to me? What kind of rest am I being called into in this period of integration? Remembering that you can come back to this at any time. We're going to move into processing. What type of processing do I need right now? Do I need some alone time, some space to just be? Do I need a practice of sharing what I'm going through, whether that's through conversation or coaching? Maybe that's through journaling or just having some space to think. What kind of processing time am I being called into? Maybe you need physical processing time, and that looks like rest. Just asking your body here from this intuitive space, what kind of processing am I being called into here? What do I need to support my processing in this moment? Maybe it's just a break from your phone, from social media, whatever's coming through here. Just let this be intuitive. And then asking, what kind of expression am I being called into right now? Am I being called to use my voice to create some art? Maybe I'm being called to cook or bake, to knit or crochet. What am I being called into in order to express myself in this moment? How can I serve my creative expression during this time of integration? You can come back to any of those questions. You can also just ask a really general question as we head into some sound here. How can I best serve myself during this time of integration? What does integration look like for me during this time? Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 Ooh, say 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 allowing yourself to receive any last bit of intuitive information that will serve you during this time of integration. And then giving yourself permission to find the time and the space to be in integration. I'm going to introduce a few affirmations. You can repeat these out loud if possible. You can make them your own. I deserve time to rest. I don't have to earn integration time. It is my birthright. I deserve time to process. I don't have to earn processing time. It is my birthright. I deserve time to creatively express myself. I don't have to earn time for expression. It is my birthright. I deserve integration time, and I receive it. I allow myself to receive the gift of integration. I am worth it. Adding any last affirmations you'd like. Take a nice big deep oxytocin breath in, sigh it out through the mouth. Allow that audible ha sound to release any limiting beliefs you might be holding about worthiness and rest, processing and expression, about integration. As you're ready, you can begin to slowly move your body, or if you're in a safe space and you'd like to allow yourself to drift off to sleep, you can do that now. If you're coming back to the rest of your day or evening, just slowly moving your body, coming back, but bringing this sense of integration with you, bringing this restful state, recognizing that you deserve time to integrate, whether that's rest, whether that's processing, whether that's expression, whether it's a combination of all three. You deserve space in your life. Sat Nam. The truth of your identity is that you are worthy exactly as you are. There is nothing you need to do to earn your worth. Take a few more deep breaths, adding that audible ha sound if you'd like, and as you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Find some time for integration over the next week. It will serve you well. Remember, you can come back to this as many times as you'd like, and I encourage you to do so as we head into each new moon this year. This will really serve you. Have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, and I will see you on the next episode of Wind Down Wednesdays.